Welcome to another Cricingif podcast. Today we have a very special guest with us. He's a former cricketer, but more known for his coaching roles. Very well-known coach. He coached South Africa to number one position in the ODI rankings, Pakistan to number one in Test rankings. He coached Pakistan to Champions Trophy win in 2017 and also to number one position in the T20 rankings. He has been with the various franchises, including Cricingif in the PSL. Right now, he's with Sri Lanka as the national coach. And we have Mickey Arthur with us, joining us from Colombo. Mickey, how is Colombo treating you?
Colombo's been treating me really well. I will say the first 3 months were really good, thanks, Maz. But right now I'm sitting in the Taj Samudra Hotel, which I have been in for the last 6 weeks. There's the total curfew here, which means that we can't go out at all. So it's been pretty much lockdown for us. So it's starting to get a little bit frustrating, I've got to be honest.
Yeah, it's frustrating for all of us. I mean, there is no cricket and everybody's locked down. But Mickey, how is the situation in Colombo? We haven't heard. I mean, like there are so many cases in India and Pakistan and some other countries, but Sri Lanka seems to be safe right now.
Yes, it is. We were actually, there was talk of us coming out of lockdown this today actually, but over the last weekend, I think there was another 40 to 50 cases reported, so they've kind of kept us in lockdown now. But the numbers are still good here, Maz. It's still, you know, as a stats man, I think we're still under 500, and I think there's only been 5 lives lost. So Sri Lanka's still pretty good in terms of curbing the pandemic.
So, Mickey, we have already seen the England tour was postponed, South Africa series is postponed, and I think that this pandemic has badly hit Sri Lanka's home season. And India, they are supposed to come in July and August, I think. So do you think that we will see some cricket in Sri Lanka this year?
Look, Maz, I really hope so, because I think like all cricket boards now, you know, if you lose a domestic season, it's a hell of a lot of revenue and broadcasting rights and etc. So let's hope for the best, and let's hope we get the Indian series. Like the England series is going to be hopefully replayed for us in January. The South African series that we've just lost, which was scheduled for June, hopefully we're going to fit in again early next year. So they haven't been lost totally, and I think there's a real commitment from cricket boards around the world to really try and fit in as much as we can over the next 2 years, so that we can almost keep that Future Tours program going, because there's a World Test Championship and a World One Day Championship that's just about to be launched. So it's really important that those fixtures are played at some point.
So, Mickey, you joined Sri Lanka in Feb, and before that you were with Pakistan for 3 years.
Oh.
Do you miss Pakistan?
I do miss Pakistan. Look, Sri Lanka is fantastic, and I'm loving my work here, Maz, and in a way, it's almost taken me back to the start of my time with Pakistan. You know, where we sort of got to put these building blocks in place and identify our players and identify our teams and identify what's a brand of cricket that's going to be successful for us. So it's almost taken me back to that. But I did look, and it's been well documented, Maz, and I've said it so many times that Pakistan's very dear to my heart. I had a wonderful 3 years. I met some amazing people. I've got a real affinity with the country, and you know, I still talk to a lot of people from Pakistan. I'm in regular contact with guys I coached and you and media people, and it was a very special 3 years of my life.
And Mickey, in terms of performances, how would you summarize your 3 years with Pakistan or Pakistan team in those 3 years?
Yeah, it was interesting, Maz, because when we came in, there was a lot of work that needed to be done, and in terms of getting clarity of team and clarity of roles, and preparation was substandard, and there was no fitness to talk of. Fielding was shoddy at best. So there was a lot of work to be done, you know, and we got up to number 1 in the world in Test cricket, and I can't take a massive amount of credit for that. I came in right at the back end of that, you know. The team under Misbah had done an extremely good job, and Waka, I think, was coach at that time. And we just continued that. We managed to get ourselves to number 1 by winning for the first time in the West Indies, which really capped it off as a great time. And then that Test team went into transition, and we sort of grappled a little bit with our identity. We had a look at how best we were going to be successful. We needed to get some new players to step up because we lost almost 16,000 Test runs, which is massive when Yunus and Misbah went. So that was a challenge and one that I really enjoyed. Our one-day cricket, I think at the moment, the one-day team that we built, we sort of started that journey at Champions Trophy time, and winning an ICC event with Pakistan was very, very fulfilling. And I think at the back end of the World Cup, I still get annoyed with people saying we had a very poor World Cup. We had two very poor games. The West Indies game cost us ultimately a semi-final place, because after that loss, we couldn't get our net run rate up to where it needed to be. So we always knew we had to be ahead of the fourth place team in terms of points. And then the Indian game, other than that, Muzz, we finished fourth, tied fourth, albeit, and lost out on net run rate. We beat New Zealand and England, both finalists. And I felt at the back end of that tournament, we were a peaking team. From the South African game, we played some very, very, very good cricket. And I always think of what could have been. And, I think we were the form team at that particular time going into those semi-finals. So who knows what would have happened. But we played some good cricket, and I think that one-day team is ready to peak now. Those young players there's some very, very good young players there. And then, I came in we were number 9 in the world in 2020 cricket. We were number 8 in the world, in one-day cricket, number 9 in the world in T20 when I came in. And then to get, I think it was 11 series in a row and get ourselves to number 1 in the world, playing a brand of cricket that was successful to us. We didn't have the power hitters, apart from a Babar Azam at the top of the order, but we found a way to win, and that was very, very satisfying. So all in all, it was a great time. It sort of fluctuated. It went in and out, and the one massive regret I have was we were a fledgling Test team. We were a Test team that was on the up. We were certainly a one-day team on the up, and we were certainly the form team in 2020 cricket at the time. But if I look back, it was the 5 ODIs against Australia just before the World Cup where we lost 5-0, and we in effect took a strategic decision there to play with a second string team to keep our regular players fit for England and for the World Cup, and that ultimately put us as a management team and as a team going into that World Cup under a little bit of pressure. So maybe that was one strategic decision that I would review if I look back on it.
Mickey, as you said that Pakistan, they nearly qualified for the semi-finals in World Cup. It was just because of run rate, and I know that the run rate got a big hit in the first game against West Indies. But still, if there is one thing that you would like to change, I mean, in hindsight, what is that one thing that you would like to change now? I mean, that could have taken Pakistan to the semi-finals.
Where around the World Cup, Maz?
Yeah, in the World Cup.
I think we played some very good cricket in England just before that World Cup, but still lost the series. I think it was 3-0 or might have been 4-0. But we found a way. We were getting 300s and we were scoring runs consistently, but we just couldn't keep that juggernaut of an of an England batting lineup under control. We lacked a lot there with Shadab being a genuine wicket taker through the middle. So I felt we had played some good cricket. And if I look back on the preparation going into that West Indies game, we prepped really well. Mentally, technically and physically, we were in a good place. And if I look back on that, maybe we should have just sat down and just spoken just maybe a little bit more about what the World Cup meant and the change in mindset and expectation, and suddenly we were hit by the West Indies, and suddenly the World Cup was almost a disaster after game one, and we just had to continually pick the pieces up, but we got that up in the next game, against England. We did a lot of the work that maybe we should have done before the first game, and the guys were in a good place. And then we had the game rained out against Sri Lanka, when I felt we were ready to go, and we almost had to then build momentum again. So that's probably the one thing, Muzz. You know, we worked extremely hard. I felt we prepared well. It was just that first game that ultimately we paid a price for.
Okay, Mickey, one of the highlights of your career with Pakistan is the development of Babar Azam. I mean, the way you guys brought him and then showed trust in him. So how do you see Babar Azam of 2016 versus Babar Azam in 2020 now?
Look, in 2020 now, he's the all-round package, Muzz. He's incredible in all forms of the game. In 2016, we knew Babar Azam was a very good white ball player. We didn't know Babar Azam Babar Azam had to develop into a test cricketer. And I remember the amount of flack I used to get from the media because I continued paid Babar. And I remember sitting saying, whatever game I'm coaching in, whether it's test cricket, 2020 cricket, or one-day cricket, Babar Azam is going to be selected and he's going to play. And I remember getting absolute flack for that. And I remember we had Yunus at 4 and we had Misbah at 5. So the only position Babar could bat was at number 3, really, if we wanted to play him. So that was tough for a young boy coming into the game. But I always knew that he had the talent and he had the skill. We just had to be very, very patient with him in red ball cricket. And I'm so happy now to see him fulfilling that talent, because he's wonderful to watch.
Yeah, Mickey, as you said, that his start was quite challenging, and I think he did not have any century in his first 16 Test matches. He was averaging in 20s, and then he scored that 1 century in against New Zealand. And now in his last 5 Test matches, he has 4 centuries. It could have been 5 in 5, but he got out on 97 in Adelaide. So I just wanted to ask that: did you have any pressure of dropping him from the Test side when he was not performing? Because Pakistan, I mean, we generally get impatient with these performances. So if somebody has failed in 1 or 2 series, we want to drop him always.
Yeah, exactly right. There was lots of pressure, Muzz, and I think you would know around that particular time there was a lot of pressure. I mean, he was I was always criticised there of him being my surrogate son, that I was looking after Babar, that I favoured Babar or whatever. It wasn't that at all. It was the fact that I'd seen in him an incredible potential, a potential that was going to make him one of Pakistan's best players going forward. And we just needed to give him the opportunity to realise that, you know, and but we needed to have time. I remember Jacques Kallis starting with South Africa, and I think after 10 Test matches, Jacques Kallis was averaging 9. But he was persisted with because he had that incredible talent, and ultimately we saw what Jacques Kallis did. Now I think Babar Azam is going to do exactly the same.
And how do you see his World Cup? Because there's a perception that the way Babar played in that World Cup, I think maybe that was the best by any Pakistan batsman since Javed Miandad in '92 World Cup.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that, Muzz. I think his World Cup was incredible. And somebody asked me the other day what my highlight was of coaching Pakistan, and obviously the natural goes to winning the Champions Trophy. But a very, very short way behind that was watching Babar Azam get 100 on a very tough wicket in Birmingham in a chase against New Zealand. And that was an innings that was unbelievable. That was it still ranks as one of the best one-day innings I've ever seen. And my overriding thought of coaching and feeling I have of coaching Pakistan was the roar when he got his 100 that went around Edgbaston that day. It was simply amazing, and it was almost as if the crowd were acknowledging that they had seen the emergence of a batting genius. That was almost the turning point for Babar Azam for me.
Okay, because there is one point related to Babar Azam that I always wanted to discuss, and I'm lucky that you are with us, and I think you are the best man to talk about it. I will just take a minute explaining the context of that question, and then I will ask it. Before World Cup, there was a game in Nottingham where he scored century against England. He took about 104 balls to reach that 100.
Yeah.
And I did that stat at that time that in 25 balls leading up to that century, he did not take any risk. His maximum scoring shot was single. And even though Pakistan scored 340 in that innings, but it was below par by Nottingham standards because we were seeing 400s there. And I remember a lot of cricket experts, Ramiz Raja, Steve Harmison, they were on TV and they came very hard on Pakistan and Babar Azam. But after that came the World Cup. And I can think of at least 3 innings where Babar could have gone for his century against England, against South Africa, and against Bangladesh. He got out on 96. But he took the risk. He tried to provide momentum to the innings, and he lost his wicket. So what I wanted to ask is that did you have any word with Babar after that century in Nottingham?
Yes, Buzz, I did, and that was probably the hardest I was ever on Babar Azam, and I did that publicly in the dressing room straight after the game. I knew the stat. I think you still sent me the stat, but I knew the stat as well. And it wasn't so much the fact that it's a natural thing when players get close to milestones that happens. My point around that for Babar was the fact that I thought Babar was too good a player to do that. And in that same game, I think you remember Jason Roy got to 90 and he went 4-6. It took him 2 balls to go from 90 to 100. And that was the difference in the scores. I think we got 340 and they chased it down in like the last over. So there was an opportunity there where if Bubs had just scored like he had scored leading up to like he was above a run a ball and way above a run a ball and then ended up getting his 100 off 104 balls. If he had continued, that potentially would have given us another 20. And that would have given us a win that game. So yes, I did have a tough discussion in the change room afterwards, and that was the only time that I was fairly hard on Babar. Not the fact that I thought he had played an unbelievable innings, which he had. The fact that he was just good enough to actually at that point of time when he got to 85 to take the game by the scruff of the neck. And go on and make it something that was match defining rather than just a normal 100, because his first 85 was better than a normal 100, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that was my point as well, because around that time there were a lot of 100s being scored, but all of them they were going in vain. Pakistan, they scored 5 centuries against Australia in the previous series. They lost 5-0. So that was, I think, bit frustrated for all of us. And I remember that Ramiz was very harsh with him, and rightly so, because I think that the players, they were putting milestones ahead of team interest. But I think he learned it, and especially that game against Bangladesh at Lords, I think he hit 2 boundaries and he moved to 96, and then he got out looking for another boundary. So that was a very different Babar Azam that we saw. So Mickey, right now he's number 3 in the ODI rankings, number 5 in Test, and number 1 in T20. So how do you rate Babar Azam compared to other batting grades right now that we are seeing in cricket?
In terms of current players,
yeah, in terms of current players, yeah. Like if I ask you to pick your top 4 players right now in the world, who would that be?
Like Babar Azam's in there every time for me. So if I'm picking the top 4 players in the world in all forms of the game, I'm probably picking Virat Kohli, Babar Azam, Steve Smith, and in Test cricket I'm picking Kane Williamson, and in white ball cricket I'm probably picking David Warner, because I think those are guys that generally win games for their teams. And Joe Root is very much a consistent there as well. So Joe Root forms out possibly what is a top 5. You know, if you then cut it down to white ball cricket, you know, Rohit Sharma possibly comes into the mix. But to be Babar Azam specific, he fits into the top 4 in all forms of the game for me.
And I think a lot of credit of his development goes to you, because I mean there is a very strong perception in Pakistan that Mickey Arthur, he deserves a lot of credit for Babar Azam's development. Mickey, coming back to that World Cup, Pakistan's best bowler, I think, in the tournament, I think it's fair to say that it was Shaheen Afridi or maybe Amir.
Yep.
And the second best batsman after Babar was Haris Sohail. So, but both of them, Shaheen and Haris, they missed 3 games each. Do you think that it would have been different? I mean, Haris maybe had played should have played all the games.
Yeah, and that's always the debate one. If you remember, Haris Sohail started. He played the West Indies game, and then we left him out for a couple of games after that, and he came back for was it the South Africa game, I think?
Yeah, South Africa.
Yeah. So what we went with Haris Sohail was we, after the capitulation against the West Indies, we felt we needed to put a little bit of experience into that top 6. That was the thinking anyway, whether it was right or wrong. So we got Shoaib Malik, who hadn't played the game 1, back into the top 6 to give us that little bit of experience. We thought with the World Cup, you need a bit of experience. So that was a 50-50 call, and we took it and made it. And I'd like to think that when Haris Sohail came back, he had a point to prove with us. And he came back, and then his World Cup was amazing, because that innings against South Africa at Lords was simply brilliant. And then his innings against New Zealand is somewhat forgotten in the backdrop of Babar Azam's unbelievable 100. But that partnership between Babar and Haris was amazing on a wicket that really, really turned. And it was the right thing for a team. You had a left-hander, right-hander. Bowlers had to change their lines, had to change their lengths. Totally different players in a way. So it was our perfect combination. And Haris played superbly well. I think Haris Sohail is an incredible cricketer. But I think Haris Sohail maybe went back and just thought about his game and came back with a point to prove, and then proved it. Shaheen Afridi at the point in time, Moz, and you will remember this, didn't have a great series against England leading up to the World Cup. And going into it, he played the first game and Gale got hold of him. And then I felt his confidence had just slipped away slightly. I felt he needed a break. He needed to be just taken out for a couple of games. And I think the little bit of a break that he had allowed him to freshen up. It allowed Azam Mahmood and the coaching staff to work a little bit on his skill. His wrist had just dropped slightly, so we needed to get his wrist upright again. So we went away as a coaching team and worked with him over that period of time. And as I remember, worked hard with him. And the Shaheen Afridi that came back against Australia was a different Shaheen Shah. Now, his first spell against Australia, and he will be the first one to say it, was average for a bowler of his. He bowled too short to Warner and Finch. But he came back at the back end and bowled really well. And then from there, his World Cup went from strength to strength. So, Shaheen at that point in time just needed a little bit of a break away from the constant scrutiny and pressure.
Okay, Mickey, now coming towards Pakistan's T20 performances under your time, I think Pakistan, they were struggling big time when you joined. They had a very poor T20 World Cup.
Yeah.
And then you joined, and Pakistan, they won 11 series in a row. And I think that the first series or in fact, the only series that Pakistan lost under your coaching was in South Africa. And that was also because Sarfraz got banned and the regular captain was not there.
Yeah.
And then Pakistan lost one-off game in England. But right now, Pakistan, even though they are still number 1, thanks to your contribution, but I mean, right now they lost 3 games to Sri Lanka at home. They lost 2 games in Australia, and I think you were doing commentary or some expert comments in that series. So, if I ask you that, where did Pakistan go wrong? I mean, from being number 1 team or being a team that had won 11 series in a row to such a poor form.
I think they went off the formula. The formula wasn't broken, Maz. The formula was there just to be used. The player personnel were there just to be used. The players just needed to be given confidence, because, whenever a coach departs, there's always change. And a new coach will always come in and want to assert himself on the team, which is just which is just natural. And there will be slight change-ups, and that also causes players to suddenly start worrying about their positions in the team, etc., etc. And you know, I think I've got to be honest. In 2020 cricket, Sarfraz is an unbelievable captain. He reads the game in 2020 cricket so well. And Sarfraz was instrumental in gearing up and getting that 2020 team back to where it needed to be. I think with Sarfraz losing the captaincy, that created a little bit of a doubt through the team, and we saw confidence levels just drop slightly. I think it's so important that the players that got us those 11 straight wings are sort of persisted with, because those are the best 2020 players in Pakistan without a doubt, and those are the players that are going to bring some success. You need Mohammad Amir without a doubt. He's an incredible white ball bowler. Mohammad Amir has to be playing, I think. I think Wahab Riaz still has an opportunity to be part of that white ball squad as well. Hassan Ali coming back, I think will make a difference. And I'm still a Fahim Ashraf man. I think Fahim Ashraf offers you so much because he gives you that all-round ability. He can bat, he can bowl for you, and he's good in the field. I think the formula was there, and I think that formula just needs to be persisted with.
And Mickey, one of the problems that Pakistan faced under your time as well, and they're still facing, but somehow it didn't affect their performance, was that issue of power hitting. So,
yes.
I mean, in your experience or in your time, like you have spent 3 years with Pakistan. So, what do you think? Where is the problem? That why Pakistan, they are unable to find new power hitters? I mean, considering like 10 years ago they had the likes of Shaheen Afridi and Abdul Razak.
Yeah, Maz, it's interesting. I'm not sure the exact problem around power hitting. I know that we worked very hard on getting those guys to be able to stand still, clear the front leg, and be able to hit balls out of the ground. We did that, and I think that the work's been shown because the guys can do it now. But we didn't have them. Like, I think Asif Ali was probably the closest we had to that. And that's why we sort of looked at him, gave him an extended run. We used Shoaib Malik in a little bit in that sort of finishing role, and Shoaib Malik did well for us. But what we did was, because we didn't have them, we actually tried to find another way to win. So we actually had to go and find a way. And was that using Fakhar Zaman at the top of the order and giving him a license just to go and play, or which we did. And we suddenly had something in the dressing room that we worked hard at, was batsmen getting us to 150. Because particularly at home, in conditions in the UAE, we knew that if we got ourselves to 150 plus, I think it was, Mazen, you'd know better than I would, I think we won like 90% of all games.
Yeah.
So we knew that was the formula that worked. We allowed our bowlers. We built a team basically around a bowling attack that had the license to go and attack and take wickets. Instead of trying to defend runs, I'd rather see them be aggressive and try and search for those wickets to peg the opposition back, than just try and stop the runs and kind of be defensive. So that was kind of what we tried to do, and that was our little recipe. Because I think what you always do with a team is you have a look at the personnel available to you, and then you create a recipe around that which you think can have success. And the success we had was with our attacking bowling options. Hassan Ali bowled beautifully for us at the period. Mohammad Amir he's an incredible white ball bowler. Fahim Ashraf did a great job with the new ball, particularly in conditions where the ball just skids on. He has the ability to bring the ball into the pad and is slightly quicker than you think. And a lot of the accolade must go to Shadab Khan, because Shadab Khan always came on at over number 7. He would bowl over 7, he'd bowl over 9, he'd probably bowl over 11, and then would be held back to bowl over 16 or 17. and he struck for us. He always got us wickets, and the confidence that Shadab got from the role that he had made him an outstanding 2020 cricketer and an outstanding match winner for us. And so I go back to it. It was just about creating roles for every player and making sure that they delivered on those roles. Because if they did, we knew we'd win the game.
Okay, and Mickey, now coming towards your role with Sri Lankan team, I was looking at the rankings. They are number 8 at right now, I think, and we can say that they are at the same position where Pakistan were in 2016. They were also at, like, I think maybe 7 or 8 in T20 rankings, and then you came and they became number 1. So how do you see Sri Lanka from here? Do you think that in a couple of years they can be a really good team? I mean, they already are a good team, but I mean, to be consistent and to move maybe in the top 3 teams in the world?
Yeah, like I do, Maz. I really do. I think we've got some exciting young talent, some very exciting young talent. I said at the start of the show that I think it's going back and creating roles and creating a brand and then fitting the players around that. We've got some very good experienced players. We have that ability. We have that opportunity. The thing is, the players just need to be given the opportunity and be backed within that opportunity to create the confidence. Because very much like in Pakistan before I came in, the team keeps chopping and changing. So players never ever know where they are, and they don't get any clear role clarity as to what's required of them at any given point of time. So that's key for us. But we have enough talent here. We have enough talent to become very, very good. I think Test cricket, we find we've got a bowling attack in all conditions that can bowl sides out. Our one-day form is getting better. It was very good against the West Indies. We won that series 3-0. We lost the 2020 series 2-0. And kind of like Pakistan, we haven't got a real power hitter, and that's something that we need to have a look at. But we've got some very good young players. There's one cricketer here, though, Wanindu Hasaranga, that I think...
leg spinner.
Yeah, but he bats as well, Muzz. He can bat and he can field. I'm so excited about this player. The world's his oyster. I think he's going to be in amongst the 10 most valuable cricketers in the world in the next year. So watch his progression. Remember the name, Wanindu Hasaranga. He's the boy. Yep.
Actually, I remember covering his debut. I was there in Gaul when he took hat-trick on debut, even though it was against Zimbabwe. But I think, yeah, as you said, and then he came to Pakistan and he troubled Pakistan batsmen big time.
But the same thing happened with him just after that Zimbabwe series. Again, I think it was against India. He got out in a bad way, got dropped, and then never played again until he came back to play against Pakistan in Pakistan. So again, he didn't quite know where he fitted in, and I really reckon he was going to play the Test series against England as well. I think he's that good a bowler that he'll do a great job in Test cricket too. So I'm just looking forward to seeing his development. And then there's the likes of Kusal Mendes. I think is a very, very good young player. There's Ishada Fernando. We've got Lahuru Kamara that bowls 150. Kasan Rajita, who's got an unbelievable action. There's a young left arm spinner, Lasith Embaldenia. These guys have got great talent. We've just got to back him in. I'm very excited by what I've seen.
Okay, Mickey, just a couple of more questions. So there's a very hot topic right now these days, and I think you tweeted on that as well, which is about legalizing ball tampering. So as a coach, what do you think about it? I mean, because I'm saying that
it doesn't sit well with me, Maz. It doesn't sit well with me. We've just seen players, albeit for using sandpaper on the ball, but have careers stopped for 2 years, and now in the very same breath, we've seen the RCC want to, have brought in higher penalties for guys on the back of Sandpaper Gate for using illegal substances on the ball. We've seen cream outlawed, the use of chewing gum outlawed. We've seen all that outlawed, and now suddenly we're trying to bring a rule in to say we can do it again. it doesn't sit well, because albeit that people get one substance and you do it in front of the umpire at the change of an over. I think there's far too many grey areas there. So as I said, I'd still prefer to see maybe a ball change earlier or something like that, just so the ball doesn't get too soft and too scuffed. If you're not allowed to use saliva on it, it just doesn't sit well with me. I think there's a better way of handling all that.
And Mickey, as a cricket observer, do you think that we are going to see some cricket this year? I mean, there's a lot of cricket. There's Asia Cup and then T20 World Cup in Australia. Do you think that we are going to see some cricket?
Oh, Muzz, I hope so. I really hope so, and the cricket world hopes so as well. I sit on the ICC cricket committee, so I'm getting regular feedback on that. And we've seen what happens with Cricket Australia. Who are supposedly be very flush in the game. We've seen their staff cuts. We've seen, like the small unions, or the smaller union. You've got the big three: Australia, India, and England. And then you've got the batch of sort of Pakistan, Sri Lanka, West Indies, New Zealand, South Africa's. Financially are gonna be so hard hit that I feel for cricket in the countries. If there isn't cricket this year, if there isn't a World Cup, countries rely on that as a massive source of income for them. The Asia Cup, we know, funds a lot of grassroots cricket for the Asian teams. So if you suddenly lose that, then all of a sudden, you don't have you don't get that funding for grassroots cricket. So let's just hope, let's just hope we see some cricket very soon.
Thanks, Mickey. Thanks for being with us. Thanks for giving some time. I hope that you're having some good time in Colombo, and you will be having some great time in Taj Samudra as well. It's a great place, actually, to quarantine.
I'm very lucky.
Yeah, it's a great place to quarantine, and hopefully we will be chatting soon again. And thanks for your time. All the best with your future assignments and with the Sri Lankan cricket team.
Thank you, Buzz. It's always a pleasure talking to you. So thanks for having me. Thank you.